Hi everyone, it's Becky here. So welcome to another new video on my YouTube channel. Today I'm taking you all again to a waterfront in downtown Vancouver. Today, this afternoon, I'm staying for a little while here and have about half an hour to do two little sketches. So I use very minimalistic materials to do my ink and watercolor sketches. I have one fine liner pen, which is waterproof, and now I'm using an Etchr mixed media sketchbook. So behind the waterfront metro station building, we have this grand panorama of sea and mountainscape. And I'm just going to sketch a little section of it, of the mountain, the sky, and the water with the orange crayons and a cargo ship. Okay, so for the first little sketch, the drawing and painting process is gonna be in real-time speed. So this took me about 17 minutes to do the ink drawing and the watercolors. Now I'm about to begin with drawing. So I'm using a 0.8 tip fine liner pen. The brand is Etchr. So I like to spend like a minute or two to kind of really breathe in the view in front of me, kind of feel the essence before I put ink line on paper. And I also have a kind of a pretty clear mental image in my head to have everything that I want to include on this blank sheet of paper. I'm beginning with the contour of the blue mountains in the distance. Very soft curvy lines, and then the base of the mountain using a lot of broken and loose lines because we can't really see solid lines for nature objects. And starting to add some buildings and urban structures around the middle. Now I'm starting to add these thin shapes of the crayon. This is kind of like a rectangular tall bracket and with different sections in diagonal lines and horizontal lines in the middle. Keep adding it, just like building a little structure with toy blocks. This is the top part of the crayon, standing up in the air, some little sections in the middle, adding some more little structures, lots of diagonal lines. And I'm also keeping these lines very loose and allow overlappings to happen. So it looks very flexible. And keep drawing the bottom part and add little details, diagonal lines in between. And I am seeing and trying to add as much details as I can, trying to summarize the essence of these crayon structures, including the general shape of these brackets. And now I'm starting to add these boxes on the cargo ship, actually behind this crayon. Lots of little rectangular shapes. And again, these lines seems to be that they have to be straight, but we don't have to. As artists, we don't have to make perfectly straight lines. Just relax and do all your best. And perfect lines are actually having more life compared to perfect straight lines. And just keep adding these geometric lines and shapes. So drawing and painting is actually a very personal experience. If you were sitting with me here beside me on the bench, you probably have very different kind of line work and the details that you include different from mine. So this is what art is all about. When we're doing the same scenery, we don't have to be all the same. We all have different interpretations of the same scenery. And that's what makes us human. No one else can actually draw and paint exactly the same as you. So it's always a good idea to really trust what you see, trust your own common sense, and follow your senses. So we all have different things, ideas, and feelings going on in our head when we're looking at the exactly same scenery in front of us. So when I'm teaching here on YouTube and with my other online classes, in-person classes, I always encourage students to observe and follow their own senses rather than following my techniques, including the line works and brushstrokes, color schemes exactly. Because whatever concepts that works for me may not work the same way for you. So you don't have to agree with me all the time. And so making art is all about finding your own personal independence, follow your own feelings and senses. Yeah, just drawing the outline of this cargo ship right behind the crayons. Add a little bit accentuation around the bottom. And then drawing this little piece of island made of rocks in the middle of the water. And there's actually one more crayon on the right side. Again, just relax to draw these, seemingly straight lines. Don't criticize yourself too much about, making perfect lines or not. And yeah, and adding the thickness, the inside lines, and keep adding some other details very loosely, like the boxes on top of one another. Yeah, so drawing very loosely actually gives more life to the things you're drawing, especially for these very static looking mechanical stuff. And using almost little dots to draw the texture of the rocks. Add a little bit of accentuation using multiple lines around the base of this little island. And now I am looking and kind of seeing about the next step. Starting to draw some buildings and other urban structures around the base of the mountain. I think this part is the city of North Vancouver, with some factories and warehouses and international shipping stations. Yeah, so just relax and draw as much details as you can. Just keep it very simple and don't think too much about what you're drawing, just following your seeing and feelings. And again, very simple little dots to show the texture of the foliage on the mountain and leave the rest blank for the viewers to imagine. Add a bit of ripples on the surface of the sea. Again, very loose and broken lines. And I think I'm pretty much done this sketch. Just keep adding some more ripples here and there. Again, we don't have to draw every single ripple that's on the surface of the sea. Just draw a bit and leave the rest for the viewers to imagine. So a lot of blank space is very important for the drawing to breathe and for the viewers to see your drawings in a more relaxing way. Now I'm ready to add watercolors. So again, this painting process is gonna be in real-time speed. So I'm just wetting the whole surface area of the sky with clear water, so it's very easy for the paint to spread out in a very translucent way. I want the sky to be very transparent looking. And I just grab some cerulean blue, kind of following what I see, but not copying and trying to push myself to be exactly the same. Just lay this color on in between the pieces of clouds. Yeah, just play with cerulean blue and ultramarine blue. Again, just practice using different kinds of brushstrokes to show the energy and the turbulence of the air in the sky, because the sky is never static. there's always a kind of invisible energy moving in it. And also blended in a little bit of royal blue or pink purple color into the blue to add a bit of shade for these clouds in between the blue sky, very, very loosely. So this is all about painting your impressions, not to make a copy. So again, just play around with very limited amount of colors. Ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, and also play around more or less water and mix into these colors. So you actually can create a lot of colors from these two colors and the amount of water and different kind of brush strokes. That's quite a bit of expression. And again, as you can see, I'm not over stirring the sky areas. So for watercolors, we are controlling what we do, and at the same time, we have to let the paint go and do the work by itself. Just keep adding a little bit more vibrant cerulean blue around the middle part. Okay, that's pretty much it for the sky. And now I'm going to move on to painting the mountains. Just kind of wetting the area first with clear water. And I'm going to grab some fresh green, turquoise green, mixes with a little bit brown or burnt sienna. And again, just apply the paint very loosely. Mix in a little bit of yellow ochre just to change the tone a little bit according to your sensations of what you see. So the bottom of the mountain shines a little bit with this kind of yellow ochre tone. This is how I feel at the moment. And just paint the bottom of the mountain very lightly. So this kind of cityscape is kind of like a grayish yellow color. Grabbing some ultramarine blue to paint the mountain peak in the distance. So the more far away the mountains are, the bluish they look, acted by the atmosphere. And mix blue with a little bit pink purple or royal purple to make it more intense. And grabbing some leftover ultramarine blue to add it on to the almost dried first layer of the mountain, just to create this kind of interesting layering to show the texture of the mountains. If you look at the mountains, you can sense so many layers of colors, not just one kind of solid color. Okay, and just let go. Add a little bit leftover yellow brown for the cityscape on the base. Now I think I'm ready to paint the water, so just wetting that area with clear water, a slight tint of blue. This is kind of like a turquoise wash. It's very watery. The first layer when painting water is very important to keep the paint very much diluted, just to help with the contrast later. Now I am grabbing some orange and red, dilute it a little bit, and use these thin brush strokes to paint the ripples and at the same time painting the reflection, pretty much like the mirror image, a bit distorted, the mirror image of these crayons. A very important way to show the quality of water to make it more convincing. And add a little bit of dark bluish gray, and again use very thin brush strokes. The first layer is dried a little bit. So when I'm adding these thin lines, the lines are not too strong. It's dissolving a little bit. And this is the effect that I want. Okay, and now here comes the pretty easy part. orange mixed with a little bit red to get this orange-red color to paint the brackets of these crayons. Yeah, you can use pretty thin brush strokes. Don't worry about painting outside those outlines because those outlines are way too thin. So the difference between doing a painting compared to coloring a coloring book is that you don't have to paint inside outlines. And now I'm just grabbing some leftover colors from my palette. This is why I very rarely clean my watercolor palette, is that these leftover colors can come very handy when I need to paint some grayish colors like rocks. And add a bit of cobalt blue for the surface of this cargo ship. Yeah, very loosely, and let the brushstroke to be there and let that area to breathe without stirring too much. Keep adding some colors for these boxes on the cargo ship. And some more vibrant red oranges. A lot of these boxes are actually of an orange-red color, just like the crayons. Yeah, and just very carefully adding these little details here and there. Now I'm looking to see if there's any more colors that I need to add around here. I think I'm gonna grab some leftover bluish gray in between these city structures. And moving on to sketch number 2, I'm gonna do this pretty interesting one-point perspective of the railways merging into a point in the distance. Starting with drawing the contour of the buildings in the distance and the trees and bushes below. Again, drawing quickly and not worrying about capturing every single shape so accurately. So this part of the drawing and painting process is a time lapse 4 times faster than the real life speed. So just kind of, having a sense of that all of these lines should merge somewhere in the middle around the base of the building. And same for the fences, drawing very loosely just to actually summarizing my impression and using dots to show the windows of those buildings in the distance because they're very far away, and a lot of times we can see the window shapes as just lines and dots. And now I'm ready to paint. Again, the speed is 4 times faster than real life. Put on a little bit yellow to show the sunshine through the thick clouds, and a little bit ultramarine blue. Some yellow green, wet on wet, some viridian green. Really want to make these bushes shine and give more life to this sketch. A wash of yellow orange for the railways, and very generously applying this mix of orange and brown or burnt sienna for these heritage brick buildings, and some leftover gray blue for that parking lot on the left, some red brown for these train sections, and the green. Yeah, a lot of leftover shade colors, and fresh green for the trees and bushes. And that's my quick impression of what I see and what I feel. So in real life situations, most of us don't have a lot of time every day to sketch. So we really have to work in a very spontaneous way without thinking too much, without thinking about making perfect pictures all the time. And that's it for today's video. I'm on the train home now. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you like it, please click like and leave me a comment below. Subscribe to my channel for weekly updates. And I will see you again very soon next time. Have a great week, everyone.